Hi, this is Jim McCrell, and you're listening to TV Confidential, and you might learn something.
Ed Robertson with a reminder that we'll play part 2 of our conversation with John McCafferty and Tom Lasante in our second hour. We hope you stay tuned for that. In the meantime, Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen are with us as we continue our expanded look at This Week in TV History. This particular segment originally aired in September 2012, I believe, and takes a look at the broadcast history of Truth or Consequences. Truth or Consequences with Bob Barker premiered on television in September 1950, but the show itself actually began on radio 10 years before, on
March 23rd, 1940. Okay, TV wasn't that big of a deal yet, so it's actually radio, but
I was going to say it'd be more like radio in 1940.
Yeah, but it's still part of TV history because Truth or Consequences originally aired on NBC Radio with its creator, Ralph Edwards, as the host.
The only game show that has an actual town named after it.
Yes.
Truth
that
or
is
Consequences, New Mexico.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Wow.
It was the spa city of Hot Springs in Sierra County, New Mexico. Took the name Truth or Consequences in 1950.
I just discovered this within the last week or so. The famous theme music, that was actually used as music for British newsreels in the 50s. And I forget which was the original theme of Truth or Consequences, but somehow, like around 67 or 70, something like that, they got the rights to that music, and that became the theme of Truth or Consequences until the end of its run. But to most people, that's what they think of.
But newsreels? Or news?
It was like British newsreels, or filler.
It's so happy and upbeat.
Well, yeah, but it would be like slice of life,
okay,
newsreel kind of stuff.
Of course.
And you can go to YouTube. You'll see what I mean. When I discovered that, I was like, that's the Truth or Consequences.
Because that theme is so catchy,
It is.
and it just sticks in your head. I mean, how long was that between radio and television? How many years? How many decades?
I think almost 40.
So we had radio for a while, and then by the 50s it was on TV. Because I do remember seeing clips of I think Ralph Edwards announced the thing about the Hot Springs, New Mexico, and it's like him pulling into this town, and he's asking somebody for directions. And he goes, "Excuse me, is this Hot Springs, New Mexico?" And he said, "No, this is Truth or Consequence." And it looks like some of the colorful characters that Lucy, Ricky, and the Mertzes met while they were driving cross country. I mean, like when they were in New Mexico.
Yeah.
I mean, it looked like those characters that you would have seen. And they pretty much went right into television as soon as it was ready. And, of course, we're of the era that we knew Bob Barker as the host.
Was he always the host?
No, because when the show first started, it was Ralph Edwards hosting.
Okay, all right.
And I do remember his intro card was kind of a devil silhouette with flames in the background.
Ralph Edwards, who also produced the show, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he produced the show, and let's see, the original TV version with Edwards as host lasted only a single season. When it returned 3 years later on NBC, Jack Bailey was the host and later replaced by Steve Dunn.
Jack Bailey, who was also Queen for the Day.
Yes.
How?
Well, no, he was the host of Queen for the Day, yes.
That's what I meant.
And NBC aired a daytime...
My subject verb tense.
NBC aired a daytime version of the show from 1956 to 1965. The first show with Jack Bailey again as host, succeeded by Bob Barker. Barker remained with the show throughout the rest of the daytime run and into the original syndication run from 1966 to 1974. During Barker's run as a host, Barker's box was played. That was basically a box with 4 sides, 4 drawers, and the contestants could pick a drawer with money out of it.
So Barker hosted the show for what, close to 20 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then he went into Price's Right.
He started Price's Right 72. So there was a time when he was doing both concurrently, I believe.
Amazing.
And
if I remember correctly, part of Bob Barker's Price is Right, sometimes they would show classic bits with, I'm assuming it was Blake Edwards?
Ralph Edwards.
Ralph Edwards, sorry.
Bob Barker's Truth or Consequence. Yeah,
Blake Edwards' Truth or Consequence, that'd be a different
That would have
show.
been, it would have a great score with Henry Mancini.
Yeah.
It would be fantastic.
But it was like, Candid Camera would sometimes show classics in the 70s, and they would have those bits. Since you brought that up, I remember there was one where they were outside the studio in Hollywood, and this couple was coming out to their car from dinner, and their car was parked in a way that they couldn't pull it out. There was a crane with a wrecking ball that parked in front of them, and they could not move. And there was another car in front of the crane, so this was all strategically put there. And the husband, wonderful actor, decided to tell his wife, I think I can move this. And he climbs into the crane, and he pulls the wrong lever, and the wrecking ball smashes the car that was parked in front. But the camera is on the wife, who, looks like, Aunt B. And just, to get the look of shock when the wrecking ball just drops. I mean, it's just like released and drops perfectly on the car that was parked in front. And just the reaction there as this stunt. They would pull pranks like this.
What I remember is occasionally, this probably was near the last 3 or 4 years of the show, but occasionally his wife, Dorothy Jo, would participate in some of the gags.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what I remember the reunions.
Yes, I was just going to bring that up, yeah.
Very, very nice. I mean, do I remember specifics? Not really, but it was nice to bring somebody home. Usually military men.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was during Vietnam, and a lot of them were kind of centered around that. They did, reunite people that may have been separated for a long, long time. But since the show was done in California, sometimes you would have military people based in California. But a lot of them were coming home from Vietnam, and they were spending time in California, and they would bring the wife onto the show, or do the reverse.
It was a variation of Candid Camera in the sense that it played off of reactions of ordinary people to unusual situations such as you just described. And they would be surprised, but they never made fun of the contestant or the person that they were playing the prank on. It was, it goes back to something you said earlier about dignity.
Yeah, there was a certain dignity that you had. I mean, some of the jokes were very well staged and orchestrated, a la Candid Camera. But, you would have, like we said, the reunions. You might have a guy who's passing through Hollywood on his way home from the service. And keep in mind, these guys were coming from Vietnam. And, it would not be unusual on a game show or something like that they would pick the guy in uniform. That's something that you'd want to show America, one of our boys in uniform. So they... it seemed very natural that they would be picking this guy, and they said, hey, when you were a kid, did you ever like the circus? And there would be something, where he would be dressed as a ringmaster, and they were going to have him do, like a lion tamer bit or something. And a clown would come by and smack him with a giant powder puff or something like that. And it kept happening, and then all of a sudden they took the clown head off, and it was his wife. And they would have that reunion. Or they would flip it, and they would have, the family from somewhere in Middle America, and they are getting this trip to Hollywood, and they're picked to be on a game show, and of course the prize turns out to be their son coming back from the service, or somebody would meet a long-lost relatives, kind of like This Is Your Life, which of course was a Ralph Edwards production.
Yes.
So they always like to play those bits. I think there were a few times maybe some feathers got ruffled. I seem to remember some gags.
But for the most part, unlike, because both Truth or Consequences and Candid Camera would be considered precursors to what we call reality television. The difference is today it's more mean-spirited. This was more gentle.
It was definitely more gentle. But you would get guest stars. I remember Mel Blanc was on one time doing Bugs Bunny for some kids to see if they could get the kids to do certain things, if Bugs Bunny told them to do it.
Oh, I remember Edith Head.
Head
did an episode.
What did Edith... Do you remember what she did?
I can't remember, but I remember seeing her with Bob Barker, obviously talking about fashion of some... but she was very serious. She seemed too serious for the venue, but I still remember.
But see, that seems to be in character with Edith Head. I mean, I've seen her in clips of other interviews. She even played herself in an episode of Columbia.
Yes.
She was just very one-note, very business.
Yeah,
she was the same character.
Yeah,
she there was June Foray. Was used for a gag where they wanted to get this housewife to make random phone calls and try to convince the caller to say something. And, of course, every caller was June Foray. And I remember one where there were 3 people randomly picked out of the audience. One was some funny little foreign guy. And they were, and the guy spoke very broken English, but Bob just found him amusing, so wanted to use him. And then to, regular all-American boys. And the bit was to see if they could walk a tightrope. And if they fell, there was a pool right underneath the tightrope. And the first guy tries it with the umbrella, falls, breaks the umbrella. The second guy tries it just on his own, falls, lots of laugh. And then the funny little foreign guy with the handlebar mustache, takes the broken umbrella and he struggles, but he actually makes it across. And then you find out that he's like this internationally known circus performer with
Melendez or something.
Yeah, something like that. And and of course he didn't speak English,
right.
But they got him to do that. But yeah, they had all these funny gags. I'm sure a lot of it's on YouTube. I imagine it's packaged in various forms.
And me too. A lot of it was just everyday people's reaction. I remember one gag, I think I remember because it took place over a week in a plaza. I'm assuming it was somewhere in Los Angeles during lunchtime. And money, just bills of different denominations started to fall on the plaza. I mean, it wasn't like a dump truck, but I mean, just random, maybe 20 or 30 bills every day for a week. And I'm embarrassed. I don't remember how they resolved it, but you start to see the same people showing up again. And it was just,
if you missed the show, you missed it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I remember a gag where I think one guy was going to take a cruise to Catalina and one was going to get there on his own. And it was like a race. And so one's on a very luxurious cruise liner when, this was before Love Boat, so that was a big deal. And they were going to go to Catalina Island. And this other guy was in this little boat that was basically a radio flyer wagon with a sail on it. And they were going to start in Hollywood, and he had to start at the L.A. River. I'm assuming somewhere around Burbank. And if you're not familiar with the L.A. River, it used to be a real river before a huge flood in 1939 when a dam broke, and now it's a concrete ditch, and it's a flood control system. So you have this very large ditch. You've seen it in hundreds of movies, usually in the
TV shows.
In TV shows, you usually see the big drag race there, like in Grease or Terminator. And so you have basically a couple of lanes where cars could fit, but then a very small space, and that is what the normal flow of water is. So this guy's in basically a child's wagon in the LA River, and he's going to start, going to Long Beach Harbor and eventually make his way to Catalina Island in this tiny tub and competing with the guy who's on a cruise ship. And again, I don't remember how it actually ended. I'm sure it ended well.
Well, I know that within the last couple of weeks, I'm forgetting the name of it, but there is a new cable channel in the works. It's not an offshoot of Game Show Network, but it is similar in that it will be showing classic episodes of game shows from like the golden age. 50s, 60s, 70s, early 80s. I know they're going to show a lot of the Goodson, Todman shows, and I think they're going to show some of the Ralph Edwards shows. So I would imagine the classic Truth or Consequences will be back in circulation.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's bits, kinescopes, stuff on YouTube, and maybe some of the stuff that we were just talking about, which, are vague memories from childhood, could be shown again, because some of that stuff was just very, very funny.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think it's good that we don't remember all the particulars, because otherwise we might be disturbed if we
it's also, and just thinking, just since you brought that up, thinking especially with all the servicemen and considering the era it was. And it just made me think immediately of Jim Nabors. Yeah. And he says he can't watch the opening of Gomer Pyle. When you see all the Marines marching, he said he knows, he got to meet all those guys. He said, they were all going to Vietnam, and he knows many of those guys did not come home.
Yeah.
And he says he just can't, when he thinks about Gomer Pyle, he always, and you don't see him very nostalgic over Gomer Pyle like he might be for Mayberry.
Right.
But he, especially the opening, he says it turned out to be a very painful memory for him to think about, being with all those guys. And it's just, so when you're looking at that, you can imagine the backstories for some of these people. I always remember it was a wonderful moment, but also I remember it was also a much more innocent time.
Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back. One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation, while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
Ed Robertson, thanking you for listening to the TV Confidential podcast. If you like what you hear, please hit the subscribe button so that you won't miss our next episode. You can enjoy Tony Figueroa's standalone podcast This Week in TV History, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you find audio. We'll play part 2 of our conversation with John McCafferty and Tom Lasante during hour number 2 of TV Confidential. Please stay with us.
Do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Are you being audited or investigated? Has the IRS sent you a letter demanding payment? You may not owe what they claim. Make this free call to the tax doctor now. Let them negotiate with the IRS on your behalf.
800-239-0201. 800-239-0201. That's 800-239-0201.